So hello everyone, welcome to the Getting Hired in DeFi event as part of our DeFi education series. I'm delighted to be joined today by Chester from Sushi, Jordan from Aave, Christina from Vega, and Batu from Binance and CoinMarketCap. Today is just going to be a kind of panel discussion around best ways to get hired in DeFi, tips for students who are looking for jobs or internships in this space. And please feel free to get involved as well. Pop any questions you might have in the chat. I'm going to start off with a few questions to get things warmed up, but then happy to go on to chat questions. So I think a good kind of way to
have Batu now.
Oh, fantastic! Hey, Batu.
Hey guys.
Good to see you. So yeah, I think a great way to start would be to kind of go to each speaker one by one and kind of learn about how you got into the blockchain space and what your hiring experience yourself personally was like. So if we start with Jordan, who is the COO at Aave.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. Oh wait, 1 minute, I will just cut background. So yeah, so I got into blockchain. Well, basically I was just, when I was a student, I heard about Bitcoin and I was just like following, I was studying political science. So I first heard about it from like decentralized central bank kind of thing from like economical professors. And this was like very interesting to me because I was always interested in technology. And then basically a couple of years after, I started doing some entrepreneurship, still during my studies, build a startup to help refugees during the refugee crisis in Europe. And basically at that point, I discovered that a lot of the issue were related to provenance, for example, on diplomas and governance, identity. And basically at that time, that was like very early in Ethereum. And I got like, I had the chance to understand the concept of smart contract and basically learn about this very early. And then I started to do more research and I understood that it was something that was going to change a lot of things and going to like solve a lot of issues, and basically realize that the most impactful thing that we could do is always like financial access. Like financial access is like the root of like a lot of problems, both for like marginalized communities and for like everyday people. So it was like then like this moment I realized that this is something I need to do. Started doing a lot of research. Then I met Stani basically online. Started to talk. He was already working on this idea of like collateralized lending, and basically I said like, let's do it, let's build that, and yeah, the rest is history.
Awesome, thank you very much. And for those that don't know, Stani is the CEO of Aave, and I think at that time it would have been called F-Lend, is that correct? Or
yeah,
E-Lend?
exactly.
Yeah, back in the day. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for the introduction, Jordan. We'll move on to Christina now, who's the community lead at Vega.
So what was the question? How I got into crypto? Or
yeah.
Like,
how did you get your job in DeFi?
So before I was working, so I've been working for Vega, the decentralized derivatives protocol. So I've been working there since mid-late 2018, which seems like a really long time now. And before that, I was in mental health tech, only ever in very, very early stage companies, including co-funding my own whilst I was still studying. And I actually got, of course, I always heard about, or I started hearing about Bitcoin in 2012 when I was at uni. And then I met this guy at this social impact summit who's doing identity on blockchain. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And anyways, he gave me the full tutorial and I was kind of hooked. And then Tamlin, who's one of the co-founders at Vega, I was working with her previously, and then she left to do Vega, and shortly after I followed. So yeah, and here we are.
Awesome, thank you very much. So moving on to Chester, who's the design lead at Sushi Swap.
Hey everyone. So before I was working in DeFi, I was working in the corporate side of retail, primarily in e-commerce, doing branding and marketing and UI UX for online shopping. And crypto was always something that I had been very interested in on a personal level. And I got involved with Sushi shortly after it started back in August, September. I was locked in the house, much like everyone else was in the world. And one of my goals for myself was to really start learning more about crypto and blockchain, as it was something I was hoping to turn into more of a career. And so I hadn't heard about DeFi much. I learned about Sushi in, I believe, a CoinMarketCap article. And from there, I joined the Discord, started seeing what was going on, and I saw that there was kind of a need for more designers and better branding, standardized UI, that sort of thing. And so I started getting involved, posting in the channel, making a lot of graphics and bringing a lot of suggestions, and kind of just kept sticking my nose in their business for a while to the point where I started doing work for them on a grant basis. And after a while, I put a proposal on our forum to bring me on as full-time employee. It got a lot of good feedback, and I ultimately got hired onto the team through their discretionary budget. And here we are.
Wow, that's a very DeFi way of getting a job.
Yeah.
Very interesting to hear. And if anyone hasn't seen the design on Sushi, I'd encourage you to go check it out at sushi.com. It is very, very, very good. So thank you very much for sharing that, Chester. And move on to Batu from Binance.
Yeah, hey guys. So yeah, my story may be a bit less inspirational, but more fitting to this panel, because I started not out of university, but whilst at university at Binance, but also a few years now. And basically, yeah, I was at business school back then, and I wanted to do something different, and and thought, okay, where can I, in the long run, find a place for myself, impactful, possibly, if it turns out all nicely, and how to get involved. So yeah, back then I found Binance for myself. I started, since I was still at university and didn't plan to actually, as opposed to some of the other interesting stories of folks dropping out, I did not want to drop out at that point in time. So how can I get involved there? I started to manage communities and slowly get to know the Binance team. At some point, I then, from managing communities, I joined the investment team there, which I co-led a while, and then we did a bunch of things. We launched my team, the Launchpad product, etc. We did the CoinMarket acquisition, where I was leading all things business until recently, and now I'm part of the Binance Marché and BD team, actually. And most of that I was doing whilst at university. I just graduated from master's last year. So says a lot about the space, and look forward to some of the questions and talk about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Batu. So going on to my next question is, what would you say are the main differences between the hiring process in traditional finance and tech as opposed to DeFi? I'm going to go to Christina firstly on this one.
I think we're seeing a really different, it represents the movement of the industry in general, right? So typically in finance and tech, you're hired based on, your education or your network, and not necessarily social status, that's not the right word, but things that are more like tangible, right? So whereas in DeFi, it's now a lot more, your it's this meme, right? Like your Etherscat is your resume. So the best way of getting hired, not always, but one way of getting hired that's becoming more and more common is through the community. And that's obviously because these projects are also attempting or aiming to be decentralized and also the community run. So it also fits in with that merit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe Chester, if you want to add anything to that, given that your job came through the Sushi community.
Yeah, definitely. So as I said prior to this, I was working in retail. So I actually have never gone through kind of a traditional finance tech corporate sort of thing, but I was very happy at how it was all about, you know, are you a self-starter? Are you a go-getter? Do you have ideas? Can you come to the table with them and bring something with it and show that this is what you can do and this is what you can contribute? And so having that lack of, you know, of credentialism and resumes and LinkedIn's and all of these sorts of things, just more so focused on, you know, what can you do? How can you help out? And how excited are you to get in there and to start making changes?
Awesome. Jordan or Batu, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think like what Christina and Chester said was very right. Like, I think it's important to just contribute in the communities, not necessarily even like the community or the project you want to be hired, but just since everything is composable, most of the projects, the majority is open source. Community is very important part of DeFi. And I think being able to see that you are an active member, you don't even have to be an active user. If you are like an active member in like governance and ideas and ways to improve, of course, like if you use, you know how to improve best. But it's I think that's like one of the critical points. Then you always have like the other ways to get hired. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, my take on this is it depends a bit as well. You know, on the stakeholder, you're looking at, there are various types of stakeholders in the space of, you know, at this point in time, there are certain, you know, maybe some pixel show types of businesses like Binance and Coinbase of the world, or large enterprises. So there you cannot maybe just enter the community anymore. You know, back then it was a very small team and startup, you could do these things. Right now there are procedures in place, and it may resemble to what's known already to most. But then there are also other types of stakeholders. There are project teams in the DeFi space. There are various types of NFT enterprises that are coming up, smaller teams, and there, yeah, it can make sense to just, you know, enter their Discord channels, you know, become early community members, contribute. And then if you're interested, if you find your own rocket ship, let's say, then try to, yeah, first contribute in some shape or form. And then, yeah, try to find your place in there. And yeah, don't really maybe to ask even too many questions at the beginning. It is usually a small startup and there's a lot of stuff to do. And you'll find your respective specific place in the long run as it grows accordingly. In any case, if you're just excited, go with a team you're comfortable with. And then one thing that was noted here that I find interesting for sure as well is I think it was one of the DeFi digital guys that recently like put out a tweet where they said they recently had someone that they interviewed where they, you know, couldn't care less about his CV of I don't know, Spotlight Goldman or whatever. It doesn't really matter in the space. It doesn't reflect or show whether you have the relevant expertise. But what is maybe more interesting to ask for his Degen score ranking, right? Did he ape in into all these algo stablecoin?
Yeah.
A project, etc. Did he get rug pulled enough? And so that's interesting. You basically go ahead and try yourself out, get some practical experience. You know, this is true here and all over the place, and that may be helpful in order to you know, show yourself to founders, teams, and make a case for yourself if you want to join a team. Hop on board.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with that. And kind of leading on from that, we have a few questions in chat now, so I'm going to go towards those. And Li Ji's just put in, maybe apart from Degen score, what is the one quality that you rate most in a hire? So let's go to Jordan for this first.
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't.
So what one quality do you look for most when hiring in DeFi?
I think curiosity. Basically being excited about the space and being curious. I think it's very important to be able to always have ideas. Like for us, that's something that keep us ahead of innovation.
Fantastic. And Chester, do you have anything to add on to that?
I think Jordan is spot on, really. It's like an attitude cultural thing. Like, what are you excited about this? What ideas do you have? Are you curious and excited to work with a team of various perspectives and backgrounds to build something new and exciting.
Yeah, definitely. It does feel like the whole of DeFi almost is kind of its own startup. So having that adaptability and curiosity and proactiveness is a very valuable skill in the space. Christina or Batu, anything else?
I think curiosity 100%, and also, you know, willingness to learn, but they go hand in hand. But also the ability to be, you know, a self-starter and be pretty humble, because there are new things happening all the time, and there is no way to you know, really, you know, I remember back when I was at uni, it was this constant debate whether you should be like a specialist or a generalist. And you can kind of DeFi, you kind of, that debate almost doesn't exist anymore, because you just need to, you know, focus on your job, but also like stay on top of like what is going on in the ecosystem, and stay on top of what's going on in your project, and kind of not to be too like fussy about it.
Yeah, definitely. And Daisy's asked, given kind of crypto is a fairly young industry, what's the kind of levels of relative salary given in kind of terms of crypto versus non-crypto? Batu, do you want to kick off on this one?
Yeah, sure. It's a salary question, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with regards to salary, I guess it depends again, because the space, while still a bit nascent, maybe has grown into a bit more. There are various types of stakeholders. There are some that are a bit better capitalized, that have become large enterprises like Binance, you know, where you have senior roles, junior roles, and you pay market rates, competitive rates. But then you also have some you know, rising stars, younger, newer startups where, you know, if you get in there early, you may also have some additional compensatory opportunities via equity, or, you know, maybe some token rights as well. But I guess salaries there will be maybe a bit adjusted to the stage of the firm as well. I think it varies.
Yeah. And Jordan, do you have anything on that?
Well, I think most startups try to be competitive. The DeFi space in itself, Web3, is quite small. Talents are difficult to find. And yeah, we need to be competitive. So I would say salaries are overall quite competitive.
Yeah, and definitely from kind of, we help students to get jobs in this space, and what we've seen on the, especially the blockchain developer side of things, there's such a high demand for blockchain and Solidity developers in this space at the moment, and not really that much of a supply. So there's definitely been increases in salary in that aspect. But yeah, thank you very much for all your answers. I'm going to go on to Erica, who's asked, do you know how your companies try and avoid cognitive biases and prejudice when hiring? Chester, do you want to lead on that one?
Sure. So one thing that is definitely interesting about Sushi, in my experience, is the varying levels of anonymity that exist within our team. So for, you know, a lot of people on our team, you know, almost everyone's using a screen name or an alias. A lot of people have their avatars or whatever, and never even necessarily see their faces too much. So I've found that really interesting, because when you can't attach, you know, a real name and face to someone and what they're doing, then the quality of their work is definitely what's speaking for them. And so I found that to be a really fascinating and refreshing way of working with a team. And so as other people have joined, some people, you know, being fully visible, you know, this is my name, this is who I am, and other people, you know, at the complete other end of the spectrum, it's always been more about, you know, what can you do, what can you offer, what are your ideas, and how are you interacting with this team, as opposed to any other more superficial factors.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that's a good way to remove prejudice from the risk, is with people being anonymous, because I guess it's fairly impossible there. And we're seeing quite a lot of anonymous teams coming into crypto now as well, which is definitely interesting, particularly on the kind of investment side, because you never really know who someone is. But yeah, moving on, kind of as you mentioned about anonymity and teams being very remote, how do your companies kind of ensure employee welfare and team building in this remote world that is DeFi?
Is that
sorry,
is
I
that
didn't
to
get
me
to
as well?
let's go to Christina on this one.
Okay.
Well, I think it's been a tough year for obvious reasons, and with conditions that no one could really really know what's coming. So I think, you know, it's all about communication, right? Like communication and trust building in remote teams is pretty difficult. Luckily, we were not remote prior to the virus situation. So, you know, we were lucky in that sense, but, you know, team formation and trust can totally be done remotely as well. I'm a big believer in distributed work and remote work. I think it can be fantastic when done right. And again, it just comes down to communication and expectation setting.
Thank you very much. Jordan, what's the situation like at Aave? Is it remote or in office?
Yeah, so we actually had our main office in London that we closed basically last year. Now most of the team is remote. Anyway, we have like employees in the US, in Europe, a bit everywhere. So it's we are remote first, definitely. I think it makes, if you have like multiple team members in the same city, it might make sense to have an office. Personally, I don't like going to the office. I am much more efficient at home. I work too much to have time to go to the office, basically. But yeah, I think like there is plenty, beside like remote working, there is plenty of stuff that companies can do. Like eventually, we need to make the difference between working for a protocol where you can have grants, you can have like decentralized, basically way of getting money for your work that is decided by a protocol, by governance, and separate that to working for a company, which is basically building protocols. That's something else. And like a company is a company, so it has like the same advantages as other company, social, healthcare and stuff like this.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I think Cade has a question for Christina about community management, but I feel Batu might also be able to chip in here, as he used to work in community management at Binance. But kind of Cade's wondering what the kind of day-to-day looks like for a community manager, and what is the relationship between a community manager to the protocol development side of things.
So, I mean, the short answer is that no day is the same. The long answer involves that. I think community it's becoming, it's a bit of a tricky term in this industry because it means different things and different people put different meanings on it. But ultimately, you know, in a community, you have different roles. So you have like the manager of like the channels, and the responsibility of creating, the way I kind of see it is creating support around the protocol and creating support for different kind of stakeholders, for lack of a better word, within the community. So, you know, that might be setting up the different channels and literally managing them and moderating them and sending out the newsletters and setting up like support events and making sure that also that the community has access to the team and vice versa, and setting up, it's kind of like setting up infrastructure around people and projects. But then you also have, it's like, okay, the community strategy. So what are we doing to reach the members that will now benefit from from what we're doing right now? And again, this is also like, and that's, you know, things such as hackathons and leading yeah, like you guys do. And then again, this also depends on what project you're a community manager for. So Vega, for example, is the layer 1. So we'll have a lot more stakeholders than a layer 2 project. Not necessarily, but you know, layer 1s are in their own kind of beast in itself. So yeah, it really depends. But for sure, if that's something you go into, it's something that the industry desperately needs more of, and it's becoming it's a very interesting, it's really fun.
Batu, have you got anything to add from your time as a community manager at Binance?
Yeah, I think Christina mostly mentioned it all was mainly about reaching out to and engaging the users online and offline in various shapes and forms.
Thank you. And we have a question. She's asking, what does a DeFi developer interview look like? Does anyone want to take that? Perhaps Jordan?
Yeah, so basically, I think it's a classical tech interview. There is plenty of different type of DeFi developers. Like, is it like a smart contract developer to directly build like smart contract, or because you can be a DeFi developer and actually just building like a front end for DeFi, or like basically any developer can be a DeFi developer, but usually you have like tech interview, test task, and just like the usual tech stuff.
Awesome. And Chester, do you have anything to add on that end?
Not particularly, as I'm not very much involved on the dev side personally.
Okay, no worries. Then Shane asked, do you have any recommendations for those who are looking to get jobs in DeFi, how they can kind of build up that, I say resume, but I feel like resumes aren't that important in DeFi, but how can they build their knowledge of DeFi, kind of become more attractive for companies which would potentially hire them? Batu, do you want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, sure. So how to get to know the space better, increase your learning curve, right? All right. I think everyone has his own maybe unique take, but what I find works best is to get your feet wet and just try yourself out. Go out. Maybe there's some environments where you may be priced out, but there are then others where you can still try yourself out without much cost. Obviously, if you get rug pulled, that's not nice. But yeah, you have to gather that practical experience and see not in theory but in practice how things work, and then dive into the communities, talk to people, talk to a lot of people, as many people as you can. That's what I did, works very nicely, yeah.
Great. And do you have anything to add to that, Christina?
Yeah, I think what's important to remember as well is that, this is a whole burgeoning ecosystem that's beyond just trading, because that can be a bit intimidating, especially if you don't feel like you have financial means, even though, of course, you can do like play things. That doesn't cost, you can cost literally £5. Yeah, let every single project, or not every, but most projects have a lot of different roles and things to get involved with as well, be that across content or design or creating memes. And the best thing is just like find a couple of projects that you kind of like the look of, like the mission, go into their Discord and ask. People are really friendly, and it's pretty unique in the sense, or it is not pretty unique, it is really unique in the sense that in DeFi you have total access to the team most of the time. And it's like if you think about a Web2 company, I don't even know how you would like go on their forum. Like, it's not like the CEO are gonna talk to you. But in DeFi you have that, and you have the ability to like see what they need and like say what your skills are and what you're interested in as well. And there's a bunch of different ways to get involved always.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Zuckerberg would get back to your Twitter DM as quickly as say Stanley from Aave. But yeah, very, very good points there. Anything else to add, Jordan or Chester?
No, I think it was quite clear.
Awesome, great. And so in terms of, we've obviously talked a lot about the kind of benefits and cool things about working in DeFi, but is there anything that you'd say is a major disadvantage of working in DeFi or blockchain more generally? Should we start with yourself, Jordan?
Honestly, I don't see any disadvantage. It's actually very great and very, very exciting. I think, yeah, there are some stuff that can be considered as disadvantages for some people. I think like DeFi is basically 24/7. It just doesn't stop. You need to, it's really intense to be able to like even just see what's happening. Like when we started like 4 years ago, it was like you knew everyone, what was everyone doing. you were knowing like when the next update of that project is coming, and like everyone was waiting for it. And then like during the past 18 months, it has been like parabolic. Like it's impossible to follow. So like just even following what's happening within your own project is like, whoa, we are doing this. Like the community, now that communities have like more and more power, you can just like stay behind very easily.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when you take a day off crypto Twitter, you just miss so much. Like yesterday with Vitalik donating all the money to different charities, and also Elon Musk deciding not to take Bitcoin as payments for Teslas anymore. There's certainly a lot going on, and it's hard to keep up with. Anything that you would say, Christina, is a disadvantage of working in DeFi?
I mean, you get, maybe not going to talk about the advantages, but I think it's not for everyone. And, you know, if you're looking for structure, and if you're looking for certainty, and if you're looking to have like a 9-to-5 job that you can just, you know, like leave at an office or something like this, you know, it's not for you. But if you're into something that's like mission driven, and you get a lot of autonomy, and you get to be part of, you know, working in a whole new industry, that's leading to really, really exciting things. You need to be prepared for. But I think, you know, like it's the same in very, very early stage startups across all industries. Is, you know, you need to be mission driven. If not, and you know, your mission can take any shape or form, but it's not for you if you just want a job for a job's sake.
Yeah. And Chester, would you add anything, given kind of working in a team where some people are completely anonymous, some are partially anonymous? Is that kind of been a disadvantage in any way?
That has not been so much, but I would definitely say, yeah, if you're looking for a lot of structure and traditional stability and those sorts of things, it's definitely quite different. And, you know, working, you know, for example, with Sushi, we don't have any office or anything whatsoever. It's always been completely remote, and the team is across 4 or 5 different continents. And so, you know, my Telegram and my Discord is blowing up at all hours of the night, because there is always somebody working from somewhere and letting us know what's going on, et cetera. And so you really have to take a lot of time and personal effort and energy to make sure that you individually are establishing a good work-life balance for yourself, and trying to structure your life around working with people who are, you know, with a 12-hour time difference from you, and trying to get yourself aligned with your team members on projects, etc. So it's never a dull moment, which is, I love that. But if you're not, yeah, if that's a little bit difficult for you, then that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of think we're fortunate in the sense that Encode Club only operates across 2 continents at the moment in terms of employees, but we do work with societies in America, South America, Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe, everywhere. So it does kind of, you get messages at all times of day, all times of night. So you end up having calls in weekends and evenings as well. But I think the kind of passion and energy in DeFi and blockchain more generally is what keeps it alive. What would you say, Batu, given Binance is very global?
So a lot of the things I think resemble also the style at an early stage startup in a traditional world, right? You know, a bit of lack of structure, etc. And you have to be more proactive and so on. But like 2 maybe main distinguishers are, first, in crypto, a lot of teams are a bit more often, I think, distributed. So that's something that you should maybe keep in mind. So what does it mean? It means different time zones. It means maybe some calls at weird times. Even if your team is not distributed, you're dealing with folks all around the place. So there still can be calls at weird times. There's one thing. And the other thing is, yeah, we're talking about DeFi, right? So most likely maybe you're live, you're a mainnet. So some folks have real money at stake in a 24/7 fashion. As Jordan pointed out. So that means that, yeah, I mean, things can happen all around the clock, and that can also lead to sometimes maybe be called on to duty at various times, occasionally as well. Well, you know, there are disadvantages to those things, but to the very same things, there can also be advantages, just super exciting, very adventurous, and, you know, great learning curve.
Definitely. And kind of another question we've had from chat is that given the light speed nature of the industry that we just mentioned and different time zones, and what strategies do yourself and your company employ to kind of try and retain some of that work-life balance? Should we go to Jordan first on this one?
Yeah, you mean, I was like,
no worries. So yeah, it's kind of given how fast the industry is, what strategies do yourself and your company use to avoid burnout and retaining some kind of work-life balance?
Well, I think it's all about like making sure that employees are fulfilled in what they do. Sometimes we need to force them to take break, because like when everyone is excited, especially when people are new and they just start, you can see that they won't stop, and you have to tell like, hey, it's a marathon, it's not a race. So like, just like don't hesitate, take some time for you, and that's also like one of the like flexibility when you have a team all over the world. Well, it's easy that you want just like to take your morning and you go like running, you go outside, and because you know that you might work a bit later on that day, or like, I think the ability, this art flexibility is like quite an advantages on that aspect. But then we have plenty of other incentives. We do like team retreat. We have like, last year at the beginning of COVID, we actually offered Oculus Quest for all the teams so that everyone could still like enjoy together and play. And we just try to have like some team stuff just to have fun.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Christina, is there anything that you would add from the Vega point of view?
Not from the Vega point of view, but my own point of view. I got a little Shiba puppy. That's the best thing ever.
Very cute, by the way, to everyone that hasn't seen it.
It's adorable. So, well, I mean, it's really hard. You need to be super disciplined because it is 24/7, and you know, you should be kind of working almost like 34 hours a day. But no, getting a puppy is great. The puppy is not tokenized, but I'm thinking of it. Her name is Naomi, so Naomi coin.
The right moment. It's the right moment.
I'll be on the lookout.
But it's perfect. You need like something, right, to like provide some structure in your day and make sure you take breaks, and yeah, maybe a puppy.
Chester, anything you would add there?
Yeah, from a team point of view, Sushi, we also do the Oculus thing. We all got sent one to have some VR meetings and meetups and hangouts and stuff like that. But definitely from a personal point of view, just, you know, make sure to take time for yourself and figure out how you best work and how you best function so that you can build out your day around that. And also just be honest and straightforward with the people you're working with about your limitations and your expectations and how you work and how you get things done in the most productive manner, so that you can be on the same page with everyone you're working with. You know, that some people are definitely very comfortable with working 12, 13, 14 hours plus straight. I am not one of those people. So I'm just very clear with everyone, like, hey, you know, like this is what I'm doing. Here's how you can get in touch with me. These are the things I'm working on. But, you know, I also need to do X, Y, and Z for myself and take some breaks, etc. So just, you know, take some time to figure out what works best for you and share that with your team.
Yeah, definitely. I think communication is key in kind of things like this. Is there anything you'd like to add as well, Batu?
Yeah, quite similar to what the other guys said. We did retreats occasionally back then. Now it's maybe a bit more a lot of people. So teams itself, they have allowances. They can organize retreats for themselves. Some teams also went for the VR, AR strategy in order to you know, don't neglect the team building during COVID times, and you know, stuff like that.
Definitely. I think my main takeaway from that question was that we should set up a DeFi Oculus gaming league or something similar. See who's got the best gamers. So yeah, and Sean's asked, is there any kind of remote working etiquette or kind of unique company culture aspects that are unique to your companies? Let's start with Jordan.
Things that are unique to the companies, I don't know. I think I was going to say the Oculus, but then Chester came. So. No, I don't know. Like we just try to be very like encouraging on everyone like starting their own projects within the team. One of the things that is interesting for us is that we really try everyone to be on par on like the understanding of the space and what we are doing. So like bringing up to speed the developers and upskilling the developers on marketing and sales and like how it works, why it's important. And at the same time, bringing all the non-tech skills workers to understand more like the technicalities, the intrinsic advantages of smart contract, and basically like if you are making a team that is like you try to upskill everyone where they are not those are not their strong parts. I think that's something that we put a lot of focus on. And then since we have like quite a flat organization, everyone comes up with their own ideas, their own thing, and if it's good, then it's worked on, and it has been like quite positive so far.
Very nice. Is there anything from Binance side, Batu?
Remote working etiquette. Remote working etiquette.
Yeah, and kind of any kind of unique cultural things about Binance.
I may come back to that later, as nothing specific for some reason that pops up in my mind right now. No.
Sure, no worries. Christina or Chester, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm not sure about remote working yet, but in terms of unique culture, yeah, I think what a really key point that's not really answering the question, but is what Jordan was talking about earlier. Is, you know, you work for a company to build a protocol, and once the protocol is live, you move more to a kind of community-driven work situation that's kind of grant-based, and depending on, you know, you like, because as a team member, you are a community member. Like community starts with the team first, is one way to think of it. So we also have, you know, this mentality of like, you know, if you want to work on a project, you champion it and you go for it. And I think that's really important to start with as a project early on, because that's where you're going, hopefully.
Thank you very much. And we've had a few questions kind of around the structure of working for companies which are very international and perhaps even working remotely. So Tracy's asked, is it an employed situation or is self-employed, and what does the situation look like with kind of working for a company in another country and paying taxes in your own country? Is anyone able to shed any light on that for the students in the chat? Jordan?
So the question is basically on the tax, or like, I'm not sure.
I think the tax side and the regulatory side, kind of say if I was living in the UK but working for a company based in France, and kind of where are you classed as self-employed or as an actual employee? Given
I think it's really I think it's really on the case by case basis. For us, like for example, I'm working in the UK. I'm in London right now, and I'm working for a UK company. So like for me, it's just like normal. I think it's really on the case by case basis.
Awesome. And is there anything on the kind of the Sushi side, Chester, given that there isn't really an entity as in itself for Sushi?
Yes, correct. There isn't much of a corporate entity attached to Sushi. So I'm personally am self-employed, and so team members at Sushi like gave me a lot of resources on how to go about, you know, self-incorporating, what I need to do, the kinds of people I need to reach out to get that going. And so as a result, you know, I'm based in the United States, so I have to follow all of those sorts of rules over here. But it definitely is case by case, depending on how the organization is set up, and obviously your own local laws and procedures. But it is, yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around at first, but worth the work.
Definitely. And so kind of a question to that I'm sure all of the students in the chat are wondering is, they'd love to work at companies such as Aave, Vega, Binance and Sushi. So are your companies currently hiring? What roles, and how should they make themselves stand out in that hiring process? Let's start with Christina.
Yeah, we're always hiring, and the best way to do that is get involved through the community and join our Discord, and you'll see multiple ways to get involved, even if it's just turning up to our feedback sessions or community calls or just, yeah, writing.
Awesome. Batu, I see you posted a link in the chat as well for Binance. Could you expand a bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think right now we restarted a hiring spree. In any case, yeah, I shared the Jobs Lever page where you can find all the open positions and apply to them accordingly.
Thank you very much. Jordan?
Yeah, so basically, I think you can contact me on Twitter. I can put my Twitter. We are hiring a lot always, primarily developers, every aspect actually, like backend, front end, mobile, smart contracts, just like you're welcome. And then we also hiring on a bit of like social media management at the moment, looking at it. Yeah, basically a lot of roles are open. It's just like it's also like depending on you and how you get, and like how do you actually stand out in the interview. I think it's really like participating in the community is something important, but just like reaching out and starting the conversation. Maybe you're not fit right now, but we can talk still. I can give like good advice, and maybe you will be a fit in 6 months. And by the time within those 6 months, maybe you would have funded your own company and and get a grant from Aave. So like, just like reach out and don't hesitate to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of on that community involvement aspect, Chester, is there anything you'd say if someone wanted to, like yourself, try and get involved with the community and start contributing to Sushi and then try and get a full-time job there? What would you advise them?
I would say, spend some time seeing what's going on, seeing what people are saying, and, come with an idea and a solution. I mean, we definitely have plenty of people on Twitter and Discord who will pop in and tell us that something is wrong or that something is not working as they would expect it to. But when you see that issue that you've noticed or an idea that you have and you come and say, hey, like, here's this thing, but here's how I want to help fix it, or here's what I want to help build, and here's what I can do, and kind of back it up with something and just get involved, start conversations, and really just go from there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for anyone that is kind of looking for jobs or internships in this space, that's one of the things we try and help students with at Encode. And we obviously have great connections in the industry, and we run kind of the education and hackathons to get people those skills that they can then go on and get jobs in the blockchain and DeFi space. So I think Anthony's popped some links in the chat, and I've just put the Discord as well. If you wanted to join the community, ask questions, upskill yourself, and hopefully get a job in this very bright and emerging space. But on that note, I want to thank Christina, Batu, Chester, and Jordan. Thank you very much for your time today on behalf of myself, Encode, and all of the students in the chat as well. I'll just hand over to Anthony to close out.
Yeah, well, thank you once again to our speakers and sponsors for this series. As I made a mistake at the start, we do have technically one more event to go, which is the AMA with Joseph from Sushi. And we also have a special event that will be happening in 2 weeks' time as part of our Hack Africa series, which is another AMA with CZ. We had a fantastic one in December. We're looking forward to the next one. That is going to be officially announced, I think, tomorrow morning, and will be taking place on Wednesday, the 26th of May.
Can I join the AMA with CZ?
You can, as the person who facilitated it, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I pasted some links. Please do. My email is in the chat as well. So please do drop me a line, any help you need. And thank you all for joining us for this series. And once again, to wonderful speakers. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And see you all very, very soon at another Encode event. Thank you very much, everyone.